Good morning. I am doing a video to procrastinate because this weekend I have to read 200 and something pages of my own book before the cement dries. It's going to it's going through the printing press, if you will, and it's going to be out hopefully this year, end of this year. And so I'm taking a fine tooth comb to it. I just texted out. Were you just putting up with shit, or were you actually fighting for your relationship? And if you were fighting for your relationship, how do you know? And I think this is a really interesting topic slash question, this idea of fighting for your relationship. And I think one of the greatest misconceptions about fighting for your relationship is that you only do it when something's wrong, you know? The thing about relationships, and it doesn't matter if in all relationships, right? Friendships, family, relationships with your family, and of course your partner, your intimate relationship. Think about this. You've got two people with two very different stories, and a lot of stuff happening underneath because of their wiring, because of their patterns, right? And so there's no way that things are going to be just smooth and easy. And I mean, you know, you connect and you have a dance with someone, of course, more so than others. But generally speaking, the easy is only in the beginning, you know, the honeymoon, where it's not about the dynamic of the relationship, but it's all about the dopamine shot into your head because of the chemistry or the exploring of bodies or how someone makes you feel. Like, all of that is exciting. But when that's exciting, we're not focusing on the tracks of the relationship that is, you know, gonna kick in eventually, right? And so, you know, and this is why I think, you know, 2-3 years in, people have that itch, you know, because 2-3 years in, the excitement has faded, and now it's time to build something real and sustainable, or not, or jump, right? And I think this is why you have to fight for your relationship, even when something is not wrong. Most people fight for their relationship when something's wrong, when they have to. When there's that conversation, when we're in couples counseling, right? But what would it look like for you to fight for your relationship now, if there is nothing really wrong? Because it's hard. It's hard to have a relationship with someone where you are fighting your old patterns, where you are not allowing the past to come in, you know? And so here are the steps. One, I think you have to be aware of all your patterns, you know, and this is the beginning. Without that awareness, you're just gonna blame, you're just gonna be defensive, you're going to be, you're gonna have a lot to say about the other person and what they need to do to fight for the relationship. So awareness, ownership, you know, what is your knee jerk? What is your default? What do you tend to do in relationships that is a pattern that you know that happens? For example, some people put up a wall, right? When they get too close. Some people, some people actually do the opposite. They lose themselves. There is no wall, you know. Whatever your pattern is, and then there's everything in between. Some people internalize things. Some people have a pattern of only loving to a certain point and then not anything after that, because if they do, then it's terrifying or whatever, right? So in fights, some people are very reactive and logical and defensive. That's a pattern. So breaking patterns is what the beginning of fighting for your relationship looks like, you know? And so you got to do this when things aren't bad. You got to do this constantly, because we are stretched like rubber bands in every relationship. you're going to get triggered. There's going to be contrast. There's going to be things that you don't agree with. One of the things that I do is I expect things. I expect a conversation to go a certain way, or I expect someone to act a certain way, and then when I don't get what I kind of expected, then I have that rejection, that hurt, that cliff that I created myself. I fall off of that, right? And then I pull back. And so being aware of your patterns, being aware of what you tend to do and why, this is the beginning. And then the hard part, so a lot of people get here, but most people don't do the hard part. They just wear the t-shirt. And the hard part is this: do the opposite of what you're used to. This is going to take swallowing your ego. This is going to take you realizing your shortcomings, what your patterns are, and then, because doing the opposite means unwiring, going against years and years and years of what you're used to. When you think about your morning routine, or you think about what you do or how you eat and what side of the mouth you chew on or how you brush your teeth, all of that stuff that we kind of do subconsciously, imagine retraining yourself to do that and how hard that would be, right? It's a conscious effort, and there's no difference in relationships. So you really have to go against the grain of who you are. I'm not saying to go against your truth. I'm saying realizing that a pattern is unhealthy and planning that out and know how that affects relationships, and then doing the opposite, right? So if you're used to pulling away, if you're used to breaking up, if you're used to avoiding, then the opposite would be leaning into it. The opposite would be being vulnerable. The opposite would be instead of to run away, to run toward. And then what does that look like, right? And these are all hard things, but these are things that I think these are what's required. These are what's required to swim past the breakers. And this is what fighting for your relationship looks like. Fighting for your relationship isn't just about getting over the big things and the hard conversations. Fighting for your relationship means a daily choice to lean into your own resistance, to break your own patterns, and to not do it only if the other person does it first, but to you to do it first, to set the example. And that shit is hard, right? It really is hard. And that's the work. It's 50% awareness of how you are and why. And then the other 50%, where most people drop the ball, the execution. And the execution isn't a one-time thing. It's a daily thing. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice that you wake up every day and do this, like you do your fitness or your running or your yoga or whatever. That's what fighting for your relationship looks like.